Evening, everyone. I call the City of Prescott Planning Commission meeting to order. It's Monday, December 2nd at 6 o'clock. Roll call. Steve.
Here.
Josh.
Here.
John.
Here.
Mike.
Here.
Kate and Bailey are excused. Next item on the agenda is approved Planning Commission minutes from October 7th.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is City of Prescott Comprehensive Plan Update.
Thank you, Mayor. So our comprehensive plan was last updated in 2015. The typical comprehensive plan spans 20 years in terms of its planning document. So the Wisconsin state statute does require us to update it every 10 years. It does include 9 elements. We worked with Cedar Corporation on the last update, and we work with them regularly on planning. So we asked them to put together a proposal. I'll turn it over to Greg Adams with Cedar Corporation and kind of review what's in the proposal and walk you through. Basically what we're looking for tonight is consideration of moving this forward to council for approval.
All right, go up here. Hi, everybody. Proposal for the comprehensive plan updated to be a full update of the current comp plan. These services would be from our planning department, so it would be Josh Miller and Lynn McIntyre. Josh couldn't make it here today, he has another meeting conflict, but this is gonna be largely their work. So if you, I don't know if you've read through this, it is pretty lengthy and it's very detailed. It's broken into phases that kind of describe.
Sorry about that.
No problem. It describes the scope of work, phase 1, public participation. It talks about the public participation plan, the plan commission meetings that would be associated with that. There are anticipated to be 5 plan commission meetings, looking at roughly 2 chapters of the ordinance per meeting with the group, figuring that might be about enough to be covered at a typical meeting. There'll be public hearings. I mean, I could read through a lot of this stuff, but try to breeze through this very quickly. Ultimately getting this to a council consideration. Any additional meetings that we'd have to be scheduled would be included within that public participation plan. Then a draft plan in phase 2. And the bulleted items here would be part of that plan. It would be looking at a lot of the existing documents that the comp plan has, looking at the various maps, land use, review and update of the goals and objectives and recommendations of each of these elements, and basically assembling all these components into a draft plan for review. Phase 3 would be that draft plan and that document review. So there'd be quite a bit of, many meetings with this at the plan committee level for review. You can see then phase 4, a pre-final and recommended plan. I could read through these things. I don't know if you can just kind of speed read through these, or if you want me to read through them, I certainly can. But basically, it'd be based on that draft review comments, and it would be kind of an update to that. Phase 5 would be the final comprehensive plan, and this would be the consolidated recommended plan that would be presented to the council. Then make any changes that might be directed by council at that time.
ultimately passing the updated comp plan by ordinance, ultimately making that the final comprehensive plan. But in terms of the management of this project, the tasks include continuing communication with the City of Prescott, coordinating with the City of Prescott for meeting schedules and dates, agency communication and correspondence, resolving any project challenges, monitoring the project schedule, and ultimately closing that out. The plan elements you can kind of see that's fairly lengthy here. This is really where it gets into maybe a little more specifics about what those are. You can see updating the public participation. It does not include a community survey. There's a question mark there on that. Like, would that be something that would be wanted to be included into that? That could be a digital survey, or it could be a physical survey handed out, tabulating all that data or not. That isn't included in here, but if that was, we estimate that to be about $2,000.
In addition to the cost?
The cost, yeah.
The time material.
Oftentimes, I mean, with the city's current capabilities, I know Carter, not to make you take on more tasks, you do a lot of tasks, but Carter is pretty good at putting together a lot of those things too, but we can certainly do that too. We have that Nicole, very capable GIS and kind of web person in our group who could do that too. So if it was something that wanted to be added, it could be. Looking at the population characteristics of the community, looking at protecting and promoting natural, cultural, and agricultural resources, the housing, energy efficiency and awarenesses, planning for a diversified economy for the city, providing transportation choices, looking at many of the things like transportation facilities, future roads, sidewalks, trails, and funding sources. Looking at community facilities and utilities, land uses, planning for future growth, exploring partnerships, implementing the comprehensive plan. So those would all be incorporated within that part of the comp plan. We'll be updating the maps as listed above with GIS. Ultimately providing report size and large-scale copies of all the maps for public meetings and displays. So the deliverables would be, as I mentioned, kind of that breakdown of the phases: the draft plan, the recommended plan, the final, and then any additional documents. Some of those would be public hearing notices, participation plan and resolution, various other resolutions required to adopt the plan. The planning group anticipates it would take about 12 months to do that work from the start. And so we'd have to finalize or I guess just find out from the city when they would want to start that, and we could then have a schedule, because right now there's not a schedule on there, but it does state about 12-month time period, but we could either amend that or add that in when that's determined, when the city would want a timeline to start the process. I guess if there's any questions, I can't get too deep into that. I'm not the planner that's going to be working on this. I'm an engineer, but could certainly relay any questions that you do have to.
When you've done this for other communities, have there been, I was mentioning this to Matt earlier, have there been any like citizen groups that have sat in on the meetings, or that have you had any like a formal comp plan committee or anything like that, have you seen that recently? I know we had it, 20 years ago. We did have a group
A group,
of
okay.
citizens, and it was good to have them. I mean,
Sure.
I remember it being Dick Hoffman, I think Ken Rowan might have been on it. They're gone now, but
Sure.
it was really good to have them to be able to ask where the ideas came from, or what the dynamics were with the meetings, on how they came up with things
Okay.
on the plan when we were reviewing it. That's
this
what
was-
the deal was.
Would it have been kind of like an ad hoc committee made
Yeah.
just for this? It wasn't like a standing committee that,
No,
okay,
no, and you know, Matt had mentioned that maybe now with the social networking that we do and able to get things out on the internet, maybe it's not necessary, and maybe I'm being old-fashioned by thinking that it would be good, and I have no idea who would want to be interested.
Sure.
I'm not volunteering or anything like that, but just, it did work out well before. There was some value to having that. I remember we'd be going forward with something, the council would, and it wasn't exactly as the comp plan had it out there, or maybe it wasn't sequentially the way we were supposed to go. And you wanted flexibility on how you could run your business, you know, with the city. And so sometimes we'd hear back from the comp committee, whatever you called it, you know, they'd come back to us and say, well, you know, this is what our thoughts were on this, and it's not really going according to the comprehensive plan. And so there was at least dialogue there, you know. It was good to have that. Maybe now we wouldn't need it with social networking and such. Maybe we could get stuff out there and get input also, Matt, you know, as far as you guys coming back.
sure.
It's just a thought. I was just
Yeah,
wondering
no,
what
it's-
Cedar, what they've done, if they're doing a lot of these with different communities, if that's something that's gone by the wayside, or is that something that's out there?
Yeah, I can talk to Josh Miller, our senior planner, on that,
Yeah.
and see if that is something he's done. I mean, he also has, oh gosh, about 15 years of experience working for the city of Marshfield, so he's worked in the public sector a long time, so he's very familiar with this process. And then procedurally, the steps you have to do, you know, for enacting this or ordinances or
Mhm.
all kinds of those policies. But I could ask him about that. But I think I think as you were kind of summarizing it at the end, though, but a lot of that is sort of the, you know, the social media kind of dispersion of information,
Mhm.
and then maybe even and then a lot of the survey type of stuff that comes
Right,
back
right.
is a pretty popular way to do that.
We did that with some projects that we had going with the city through the years. We had a sidewalk committee that we did. It was an ad hoc type
Yeah.
of thing, and it worked out well. I mean, there
Okay.
were people that had different
Sure.
areas of expertise on that.
Yeah.
They knew the community very well, but
Yeah.
anyway.
I'll ask
him.
I'll ask him that, though,
Okay.
if there is anything like that. There is the public participation plan, you know, it does,
I saw that.
it does bring in a lot of that public input, at least opens that up for that type of discussion, so.
So when we decide to move forward with this, you said it's gonna take like 12 months. Is that for you guys to develop the plan for 12 months before we start having a meeting, or are we gonna have the meetings throughout that 12-month?
It'd be throughout the 12 months, yeah, I'd be in, kind of
Kind of like a
in
monthly
parallel with that, yeah.
update, like every planning commission?
It would probably be on a schedule like that, or at least every other, but it might be more like, probably about every planning commission meeting, there's gonna be this kind of a review of these updates that you could, you know, it'd show, here's your current one, here's these updates, you know, and is there anything that's not maybe in step with what maybe the commission would be recommending, that type of thing.
Okay, thanks.
So you did note in here that the Cedar staff will attend an estimated 5 plan commission meetings to work through plan elements spelled out in the scope of the work.
Right.
So the estimate that there'd be 5, there may be more, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And that's just those kind of that review, that core review
Okay.
meetings. there'll be other ones, public hearings, potentially some participation meetings, things like that, that would be potentially worked in there. We do a lot of meetings, obviously at no charge to the city. These would be ones, though, that we would factor in probably, you know, the five, those core ones are kind of factored into part of that cost. so.
Okay.
Guys all good?
Was the
Yep.
last update completed by Cedar as well in 2015?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah. So it does, you know, we do have those electronic documents, those maps, those kind of things that do kind of create a little bit of efficiency, maybe with revising and updating those. We have done some updates on ones from another company had done for a community, and it is a little more work to take those, maybe just these images and recreate those maps, because you don't have anything, any of that source data. So there's some efficiencies for sure.
So what's the step for us here tonight then? Is this something we're gonna recommend you taking the same information to council at the next meeting, and then they'll deal with the contract and whether or not they want it?
Yes, so either A, move it forward to council for council to consider approval, or B, if there's something you want, more information you need to help make that decision. Otherwise, we'll take the feedback. I think one of the things that would be beneficial in talking with yourself and just looking at the plan overall would be some sort of public participation survey, even if it's just putting in our newsletter and putting the link online to see who we can get. I know we got a lot of very good feedback when we just did a survey that Carter put together for our Great Rivers Park that we're trying to plan out. So I think that would be something that we could do on our end, and working with Josh and Lane at Cedar Corporation.
I see we kinda got into the nuts and bolts on this, on the contract. Is there anything that we should, that you'd like to point out to us on the contract that they're gonna be looking at? Goes into detail.
I think there's quite a bit of detail in here, and I obviously talked with Josh a little while today about it, just for me to get kind of acclimated to it. I can't get too far beyond what is spelled out here, just because I'm not the planner that'd be doing it. I'm not a planner. But one big thing would be a schedule. I'd mentioned we would want to, I think, add a project schedule in here, and which would really trigger, like, when would the city recommend starting this, and then that could set the timeline for that approximate 12-month schedule to finish that. Josh has kind of a framework of the timeline it would take. We simply need a start date, and really it would just roll out from there. So, but I don't know if that's something, Matt, if you were thinking the committee making a decision on that, or in terms of a timeline, or staff making that decision on a timeline to start.
I think the overall thought process was that we'd do this throughout 2025. By the end of the year, we'd get it completed, and that the actual schedule we would work with you guys on once we have the contract approved.
Okay.
Was there anything built into the budget on this as far as covering costs?
Yeah, so right now, the 2025 budget does include this cost within the budget for this work to be done.
Any recommendation, if you guys are good with that?
I'll recommend take Senator forward to the council.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to move the comprehensive plan update to the council. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you,
Yeah,
Greg.
thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Next item on the agenda is proposed amendments to ordinance 635-57, regulation of inhabiting campers and RVs. Matt, Carter,
Thank you, Mayor. So yeah, we discussed a little bit about this at the last meeting. We felt there was kind of some uncertainty on exactly what we wanted to move forward, so we brought it back. Based on the last discussions, we added an extended habitation period, which we extended to 14 days. We looked at some other municipalities and added temporary utility connections to prepare for off-site use, and kind of a sidebar of that, changing the driveway storage capacity. So you'll see in the attachments what the updated text would look like, and also a comparison of various cities nearby and what their ordinances are. So what we're looking for, any final reviews or suggestions, if there's any minor changes, we could then set a public hearing for the January 6th Plan Commission meeting. In the table, if you look at the duration restrictions, I think our proposed amendment here, I think you'll find that it falls pretty close in line with the other municipalities, if not leaning more towards being more lenient on the restriction, which is kind of the goal. We didn't want to be too restrictive, but we also didn't want to tell residents who would call it in that we have no tools at our disposal to enforce it, so that was kind of the goal.
I noticed in some of these, I like the verbiage in it, but it looked like it might be tough on enforcing. They had, I think, for Baldwin, they talked about permanently connected to sewer lines, water lines, or electricity, so it's not supposed to be permanently connected. And then the recreational vehicle may be connected to electricity temporarily for charging batteries and other purposes. So sometimes when you put in the purpose of this, it's vague, and it would be hard to enforce. But with the verbiage that was under Prescott, it didn't look to be that way. It looked like it would be, if somebody's complaining about a neighbor or whatever, it looked like it would be enforceable. I like the language in what you had with the Prescott one. I don't know what you guys thought of. So the next step on this would then be to have a public hearing on this?
Do we need a recommendation for that?
Yes, if you are good with moving it to public hearing with no changes, then yes, we'd like a recommendation.
I like that we loosened up some of the durations. I cringed a little bit about people wanting to store their own RVs on their property and getting harassed about it. I think that if they own the property and they own the camper and they've got it on their property, I cringe at them getting harassed for it. But it's nice you give in comparisons to other municipalities, and it does look like, we in comparison are a little more lenient, which I appreciate. I would lean far more towards Ellsworth's opinion on it, which is quite forgiving in regards to letting people do what they want with their own property. That'd be my opinion on it.
Not really. So you say they can store it for up to 180 days. That's
Yeah,
it.
Right, but,
Where do you put it the other 6 months?
well, right, that's a problem.
And it has to be in your rear yard.
Yeah, that's true.
Side or rear?
Not, okay, side or rear.
Carter, can you clarify, RVs need to be on a hard surface or exempt from that?
Yeah.
See, I saw that too.
If you're familiar with the different classes, the Class A, which is like the drivable RV, not the tow behind type. that
Okay, you
has
can
to
drive
be
a
on-
Class B and a Class C also.
Yeah, Class B and Class C you can park on a non-improved surface, but Class A has to be parked on an improved surface.
Okay.
And how'd you come up with that rule?
Wait, explain that again. You totally lost me. I do not know the difference between a Class A, B, and C.
Okay, a Class B is a van. A Class C is the ones where you can see where you sleep on top.
It's over the cab.
over the cab, and the Class A is where the windshield's straight up.
I think it might have been a wheel load, like weight.
See, but you can get they got those new Class C's that are
A, B, and C,
huge.
these are all drivable?
Yes, with steering wheel.
Okay. And so what about, so are we not even talking about a pull behind here?
We would be recreational vehicle as well, yeah.
I guess I'm even
RV
more
drivable
confused
recreational vehicle, tow behind camper, pop-up camper, you know, those are all recreational
now.
vehicles.
So what needs to be parked on a hard surface and what doesn't?
According to this, it's A.
And a Class A RV needs to be parked on an improved surface.
or a Hyundai,
And the Class A is
because it
what?
says all vehicles except for what says, so you could have a 3,000 pound Hyundai, but you can't park it in your grass. But you can park your 25,000 pound Class C camper on the grass.
Yeah, I'm confused by that, why that is.
I guess it is a little arbitrary. I know we touched on this a little bit when we updated our zoning code last August, but it really was just what was already existing. But yeah, it is quite arbitrary what you do need an improved service for and what you don't need an improved
That's what I
service
was
for.
thinking when I was reviewing this. But I don't know if we're here to talk about that or not.
I mean, I was looking at that too, and I was like, this is dumb.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I thought maybe I was missing something.
Yeah, and I will say, if we're looking at other municipalities' ordinances, you would find that a lot of cities require any vehicle to be parked on an improved surface. They really would not allow a, car or sedan to be parked just in the grass in
And
the yard.
but Prescott does or doesn't?
We would in the rear yard, yep.
No,
Or-
except as provided in subsections A, 1B, all vehicles, blah, 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 then the exceptions. And the vehicles where the primary function is designed for recreational purposes such as, but not limited to, snowmobiles, campers, boats, jet skis, etc. Where does it say sedans?
I might have got that mixed up. I think that's what we changed last August. That might have been what we changed last August. I might have got that mixed up. I apologize for that. But-
I guess I'm confused about why there is a difference between all these different vehicles and what needs to be on a.
I mean, I get it. I mean, your little jet ski trailer parked in the grass isn't gonna do much, but you big campers, it's gonna sink
But if
right
it's,
in.
but I'm just saying it's your own.
It's your own property.
It's private property. If I make
Yeah,
ruts in my own property,
you gotta fix them or look at them.
well, right. I don't know. But why the differentiation between certain classes of RVs, I guess?
I really wouldn't be able to say I think it was kind of carryover of what was existing.
That was just what somebody put in a long time ago, and that's the way it's been.
Why don't we fix it?
Fixed work.
Also, just I think the classes, I think that does relate to weight, and the concept probably was when it was written is like those, the classes theoretically correspond with size. So it was like.
But they don't.
But they don't, but if it's heavier, it's theoretically bigger, right? Am I
Yeah,
getting
absolutely.
straight? So
But a
bigger
40
might be
foot fifth wheel.
affecting your neighbors if you've got a 55-foot.
But
Yeah.
if you have a
Or how is it?
40
I guess how is that
40 foot
affecting your
fifth wheel.
neighbors?
Well, I'm just speaking.
I'm
Speculating.
asking.
I'm
that's a genuine
speculating
question.
that, that's just it. People don't like too many cars in the driveway. They don't like, they like making all these rules for people not to have their own property on their own property, but that's probably what.
I can respect the visual, like,
Yeah.
I don't have 13 campers parked in my backyard.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. That's
I don't
probably
want
the
my neighbor-
concept though, is
I don't
like
want my neighbor
the
having
classes
13 campers.
differentiate the size and they're like, well, let's put a limit on the giant stuff. That's probably, that's
And
speculation.
you're probably right, but what I'm getting at is,
Yeah.
there's fifth wheels that are bigger than a Class A.
Yep. Yeah. Well, the game's changed quite a bit since that's been.
I guess
Sure.
to me, if my neighbor puts some gravel down, that doesn't make it any more visually appealing to me
Right.
that they park their camper there. I don't know. Is there another reason for this? I guess I'm missing. I'm missing.
The
something.
only thing I can think of is that have people would the grass would die or the grass would be long next to your camper. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like if you went and do like neighborhood that had an
But that has nothing to do
HOA.
with size either, though, right?
It doesn't have anything to do with size. Snowmobile
It's
trailer.
fit-
Like, I see that
finish.
point, you don't have grass
Yeah.
growing up underneath the thing.
It is an optics thing though. It's like, that might not bother you, but some, the fit and finish of like having an apron for your camper, like the concept's pretty looking, maybe? I don't know.
But again, that has nothing to do with
Everything
size.
should have.
Or weight.
I don't want none of
That's a
it.
visual appearance thing, then it should be, anything parked back there should have a improved surface. I don't know. Anyway, maybe we're getting way off track, way off topic here.
As for what's suggested to be discussed tonight, it's better than last time we discussed it, so that's great. The other stuff, Matt, out of curiosity, what's that look like to, like, we're not perfect, we go through this stuff, we did review this last year, it was in addition to 400 other pages, so it's kind of a lot to chew on. And we make mistakes occasionally putting these types of contradictory things together, that you almost can't quite explain, like, why can't I put a small car, but I can put a fifth wheel or something. It's hard to explain that. But generically speaking, as we come across these that aren't really on the table, what's the best way to handle them? Wait for the next cycle, because that's maybe appropriate sometimes versus,
It's completely within your purview as the planning commission, anything within the zoning chapter, if it's in chapter 635 or really any of part 3 of zoning legislation, as the planning commission, you can, bring it up and tell us that you want to discuss it. The only thing I will note, just our code says, and this might be different than what is typically reviewed as a Class A, is it says Class A recreational vehicles are motorhomes regardless of the type of chassis beneath them and whether or not the vehicle contains slide outs. Class A also includes commercial passenger and school buses that are converted into RVs. So I think these are often the largest mobile homes available. So I think maybe our code,
Well, that's
they
wrong.
classify as Class A is not the same.
Yeah, it's
as
not
what-
right.
well, I think campers and recreational vehicles have morphed over time, and
Well, they
now
have, but I
now
mean-
you can get a fifth wheel that's,
Yeah, and then, but
Nice.
the Class C's always been big.
yeah.
Because I think, the way you're saying, Josh, is it's based on weight, and Class A, I believe, is actually the lightest, and then it gets heavier as you go to
No,
Class C,
not
right?
necessarily. It's the style. It's kind of like, do you want a sedan or a coupe? That doesn't mean one's better or the other, or one's bigger or they're smaller. It's just how many doors it has. Same with a Class B always looks like a van.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know. Matt, just to circle back on that, so we've got something to look at here, and would it be a better flow to look at the periphery and be changing that now versus focus and then bring it back up at a later time to edit that, and do it more in cycles versus,
Well, I don't like the fact of we found something wrong, but let's fix it later.
well, if there's a better flow to the process is all I'm asking.
If we were to hold off and start working on this now, so this public meeting for this would also be incorporated with the same public meeting for this. That way we're.
Yeah, but there's always another public meeting, and this is a marathon. I'm just saying, I'm tackling this now, it would be a whole nother meeting, which is fine too.
Yeah.
But,
But, I really don't think that we need to worry about getting this done
well,
today.
right. Well, just in respect to the effort that's been put in so far.
Well, I think the bottom part, I think we can leave as is.
Yeah.
Well, for the sake of getting it correct, we can go back and have that discussion, look at the code and see how we can make it align so that everything kind of makes sense, so we can bring that back towards you, and that way we don't have to have piecemeal public hearings and we're, stringing months and months on where we're having a public hearing followed by another public hearing. I'd rather do the same thing what we did last year where we had the whole thing in front of us. Obviously, this portion will just be looking at recreational vehicles and making sure we get that part right and in our chapter and fix.
Fair enough.
And if we have to keep going back and changing things as we go to a next section, we can keep doing that until we have a finished product that we all like.
I'm all right with that.
So what now?
He's gonna go back and make that make sense. a
So
little
we
better.
want to make 653-57 right the whole way.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we will,
So to know what to present at the next meeting, do we want to remove the exemption where vehicles where the primary function is designed for recreational purposes, list some examples, are exempt from the paved or gravelled hard surface requirement? Is that something we're looking to remove to make it consistent?
I don't know, what you guys think?
What's the thought on limiting these things nowadays? I mean, I guess the number of them might be a good limitation to put on people with their private property on their private property, but one of anything, you know, it's like, that's hard. I don't
Well, it's
know.
also hard to say, cause like, what do you wanna look at, some dude's used school bus, or, oh, he's got 2 jet ski trailers? You don't even notice them.
Yeah, I guess I get that.
You don't wanna say 4, now some dude's got 4 school buses.
Right, right. Yeah. I don't know how you win there. That's tough.
It's tough.
So I will say, I do remember when we looked at this last year, the whole reason the recreational vehicle exemption was made, it was because of that exact, I think we felt it was arbitrary to require a trailer with snowmobiles or jet skis to have to be on improved surface when they're, even if they leak, they're leaking onto the trailer, whereas the concern for, say, an old car, even though it has to have updated registry, if it's just sitting there, we already have
Leaking
this
oil.
issue. In a couple spots where if it's sitting there, it's leaking oil into the ground, it affects our groundwater, or it runs off into our storm sewer, or it's causing erosion, that thing goes into our streets, so that was the idea why vehicles with, you know, full motors had to be on improved surface. Whereas recreational vehicles, we were saying, you know, your boat in the winter can be in the back of your house or on the side of your house, or your snowmobile.
Right, how specific,
I
how
mean,
specific
know,
do we
right?
wanna get with this?
Boats have engines, with oil in them, without a thing on the bottom, I mean. My biggest thing is, I mean, you just push, somebody just said all motorhomes are Class A's.
Well, my biggest thing is just the arbitrariness of this and
The conflict of it, right? Like
yeah.
you say this is okay, but this isn't.
Right.
Type of deal? Yeah. I guess we should definitely square that up.
Yeah.
Consistency and
So are we saying we wanna let, cause I guess what I'm hearing is like, let's
So here goes, it should
throw
be,
the rules out so you
it should be
can park
nobody needs
anything
gravel, or
anywhere.
everybody needs gravel or concrete.
well, that's
I mean, you couldn't say, somehow say big stuff needs improved pavement and little stuff you can get away with?
I mean, that's, I kinda like that idea, I just don't know how to word it.
Right. I mean, they're trying to do that with classes. I could have swore classes were just weight related. I
No,
thought
no.
That was.
Oh, go on Pleasureland.com.
No, I have no
If
idea.
they're
I
gonna say,
just
what
don't
kind of
know.
motorhome, you
Yeah,
go,
yeah.
Class A, they're all gonna look the same, then click on Class B, they're all gonna look like
Sure.
vans, Class C, they're all.
That's like
gonna-
a DOT thing, right? That's a DOT.
It's not a DOT, it's just the way the manufacturers classify them.
Got that, Carter?
So,
Watch the tape.
are you asking us to come up some guidelines that you think will kind of meet in the middle, or are you saying throw all the guidelines out and let's try to let people do whatever they want because it's their property? That's what I guess I'm trying to ascertain which direction you want us to try to prepare so we can get the information you want.
Doesn't there, geez, yeah, I don't know.
I think it's a drivable,
If it's drivable, it should probably be on something.
right, and then, but fifth wheels are just as big as the,
Yes, they are.
well, you can drive a snowmobile
but they're on a trail.
sometimes.
But, okay, not gonna debate it.
That is a fair division line, or not fair, that's okay division line. I think that sounded okay if it's drivable. I mean, that,
But like you said, then fifth wheel,
yeah,
that
that,
weighs,
we gotta draw a line in the
26,000
sand
pounds.
somewhere. It seems like the fairest.
you know,
I guess a boat's drivable,
Yeah.
but not on land. You know?
Well, yeah, the idea, all recreational vehicles would be drivable, but the idea would be, do we draw the line to let people have more of those toys, if you will, be stored on the side and backyard without having to put a gravel or concrete or
How many
asphalt pad
people are
down?
actually gonna drive their motorhome into their yard and let it sit all winter without it being, because they know what's gonna happen in the spring?
yeah, it's gonna sink.
So I mean, it's,
you put it on pads, but
yeah.
I think, it's a matter of fitting it sometimes, but, I think you'd be surprised, you read these conditions and how many people are breaking the rules right now.
Well, again, it's only so many complaints.
Well, right,
We're not
but I
actively
mean,
looking for it.
theoretically, we should probably align with the citizens, you know, on what
What
they're
they
doing.
want.
Yeah, what they want, what they're doing, that's what who we represent, because they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
I get
but
there's a
you-
spectrum.
When you say the citizens, I mean, you got the people who have RVs, then you got people who are neighbors of people with RVs,
Yeah, right, it's a spectrum, sure, yeah.
you know.
So you gotta give them some direction of what we want here.
$1,000 in gravel.
Well, maybe,
If you can't afford the RV.
yeah, I mean, but, yeah.
Put weight limit
So-
on it.
Yeah, let's do weight limit.
Okay.
8,000 pounds.
8,000 pounds requires.
Anything over 8,000 pounds.
I don't hate that idea. Furthermore, you did comps for that previous thing of other communities. Is that hard to do? Is that like a word search in their documents? Or
I'd
is
say
it,
some of the larger cities, they have their code on an actual website that I can, search and look up keywords, but, I mean, like, I think Ellsworth, it's just like a PDF document. You kinda gotta find the right section and then
sure.
comb through it, but it's not super hard, I mean, looking
That'd be
through
fun
our
to see
code.
what other communities our size too. I don't wanna be,
Would you say the current selection of those cities would be a good comparison, or I can
Yeah,
change
I think
those?
Yeah, that's fine.
it was good.
So just one other clarification then, 8,000 pounds, are you saying 8,000 pounds, anything greater than that for a recreational vehicle, or are we saying anything 8,000 pounds and under even for like a standard motor vehicle can be?
I guess I would say, 8,000 pounds and over for everything.
It's
I don't
pretty
really like-
forgiving and it,
So,
But then
So that means we
leave
can
the cars on there so you can't park the car in the grass. And recreational vehicles under 8,000 pounds can park in the grass.
ooh, that's nice.
I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Well, I think if it's, if it's the drivable RV,
You're not gonna have a drivable RV under 8,000 pounds.
okay.
I mean, right?
I think you're right,
fine.
yeah.
I mean, how much is your pickup weigh?
Unless it's like a tiny truck camper.
Yeah.
But
I don't have any
then
idea.
it's.
But then it's a vehicle.
Well, right.
Well, and then if it's a, whatever.
What's your truck weighs?
The standard pickup truck is 6,000.
Four-wheel drive, yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So are we good with this?
I like the idea.
John, you okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
Mike?
Yeah.
Okay,
good.
all right. Next item on the agenda is other business. Is there any other business?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion, and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.